Okay. Everyone is doing well. Mhm. So today we have taken up the topic unlock your inner butterfly. Unlock your inner butterfly. Hmm. So we see the main message on Sunday was to transform our nature, to transform our sanskars. And real transformation is the transformation from body consciousness or role consciousness to soul consciousness. And if we look at this transformation, a very appropriate metaphor is a butterfly, right? Because butterfly really goes through this kind of immense transformation, which is also called metamorphosis. And so caterpillar represents a stage where it's just a little insect and just very limited, versus butterfly is really unlimited, right? And so that's what, when we talk about body consciousness versus soul consciousness, so that's where we thought to explore this topic, unlock your inner butterfly. It says true transformation begins within. True transformation begins within, just like a caterpillar's metamorphosis. As you recognize your potential to become your best self. Mhm. So, has everyone seen a caterpillar and a butterfly? Yeah. Mhm. What's the difference between a caterpillar and a butterfly? Mm. Yeah. Uh, Butterfly is sampurn, complete, right? Mhm. Yeah. So caterpillar can
One's on the ground and one butterflies flying beyond.
butterflies can fly. A caterpillar can only walk, right? A caterpillar can only see just a little bit, whereas a butterfly can see the larger picture. Caterpillar's life is the life of, it's like the caterpillar is mostly in the mud, right, in the dirt. So his life is not so clean, right, dirty. Whereas a butterfly's life is full of colors, full of beauty, full of light. And wherever there are butterflies, everyone wants to just, just be around. It's a sign of prosperity. It's a sign of good luck, right? Having butterflies. And so, if you look at the mind, so when the mind is in a caterpillar mode, how does it feel? It's just like a caterpillar, like narrow vision, right? I can just see limited, and somewhere something not so clean will be there inside the mind, right? It's uh, not the ideal way, right? It's like a caterpillar versus a mind that is butterfly. In the butterfly mode, that mind is that experiences just full of celebration, full of inner beauty, full of joy, right? Just to be happy and share happiness. So that's like a butterfly mind. Mhm. So today, let us try and look into this magical transformation and how we can really mm, mm, be on this journey. We're all on this journey, but how to appreciate how far we have come and then what keeps us on this journey? This one says, and right when the caterpillar thought the world was ending, it turned into a butterfly. Right. So every caterpillar is actually a butterfly. Right? Butterfly in the future form is butterfly. So, but if you really see like this, say this is one of the um, most magical transformations in nature. Right? Like an insect can actually become a right like a butterfly. So there is a little video just to uh, you know take us into this journey of what it means to be a butterfly and what does a butterfly represent. So let us watch that and then we'll move forward. So much to learn from butterflies. Some butterflies can't hear, right? They feel vibrations and they don't transmit disease, right? They are solar powered, they take energy from the sun. These are all incredible, right? Qualities. And they all, can really feel. They can fly up to 1,000 kilometers. That's, yeah. And they weigh just like two rose petals. And so if we see like this huge transformation that happened, uh, you know, and then somewhere the caterpillar had this inner calling to go inside this cocoon and completely transform itself. It completely melts down and then a butterfly emerges from within. So this is process is called metamorphosis. It says metamorphosis isn't loud, it unfolds in quiet moments. When you outgrow what once fit and gently step into what's meant for you. I am no longer who I was, and I'm not rushing who I'll become. This season is about trust, patience, and honoring the in between, trusting the process. Mhm. It's amazing. It's not like a sudden, right, jump, right? But it's at every moment. It's like this transformation is happening, and the main ingredient is what is the main ingredient here? Trust. Mm, trust. I am no longer who I was, and I'm not rushing who I'll become. And if we see in our spiritual journey, we're also evolving. Right? What we were 5 years back, we are so different now. Right? Even what we were last year, we are different from that now. And so we are constantly evolving. And so just to be patient, just to honor the in between. This is really nice to honor the in between. Because sometimes you may want to rush. If there is a situation or something, I just want to rush to get to the other side. But it's really important, every little struggle that the butterfly goes through in its journey has a purpose. Right? Uh, so, even in our spiritual journey, everything that we experience has a purpose. Mhm. Mm. There is another uh, interesting way to look at uh, this whole life cycle of where we start to where we end and how to trust every part of the process. So it says all changes are hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. Right? So hard at first. So why? It says uncertainty, there is fear, stepping into the unknown. So even in our spiritual journey, when we start, there is uncertainty. We don't know. And of course, there is fear. And we don't know where we are, going, what we are going into. So there is some an element of, right, feeling it is hard. Mhm. But then it says messy in the middle. So during the journey, of course, there is struggle, doubt, feeling lost, and not seeing the light. And when we realize that this is a part of the journey, then we accept it. We say, okay, this is how it's meant to be. I cannot force myself to just become a butterfly without the struggle. So the struggle is important. And gorgeous at the end, growth, strength, a new beginning, more beautiful than you imagined. Right? So this is a really nice way to summarize this journey of the butterfly. And the essence, the key message here is trust the process. You are becoming. So every day I am becoming. Every day. So the more I just, continue, even in spiritual life, we just, trust the process. We continue, we accept whatever, struggles or doubts or whatever we may have. And then we just, move forward. Right? Mhm. Um, if we look at um, the struggle, there is a nice story about how the butterfly struggles and how that struggle is important for the butterfly. Right? So let's watch that little story, then we'll move. Mhm. What do we learn from this story? Huh? Mm. Mm.
Yes. Struggles are really important for us to be able to grow and learn from that experience.
Right.
Yeah, very nice.
The struggle is important, right? Because that's what allows us to grow. And so struggles are important. Mm. And so it's not to shy away from them, but to really embrace them, accept them. And it's really interesting that once we realize that this journey, right, is one where we realize it's not very straightforward, it's difficult, right? So when we understand this, the good part of this is that not only it helps us in our journey, but it also helps us to develop empathy towards others. So it says, consider how hard it is to change yourself, and you'll understand what little chance you have in trying to change others. Right? Sometimes we want to change others or situations or people, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously sometimes. But when we realize that I myself have such a long journey, how can I expect someone else to change? And so, really, the first step in this journey is to really feel that whatever may happen around me, but it is I that needs to change. It's not the other person or it's not the situation, but it's I that need to change. And so that awakening, that is really important, because that fuels this drive for inner change. And so most of us, it's like there is a long line when it's like change others. But to change yourself is a very short line. So it's like even a lot of our thoughts, how do I know that am I focused on changing myself or changing others? It's a very easy way to know. So if someone asks me that can I write 5 weaknesses of myself and 5 strengths of myself? So if I take that as one part of the exercise, and the second part is write 5 strengths and weaknesses of the other person with whom you are living or interacting. So which one would be easier? So generally it is of the other person, because majority of our thoughts are around others. Very few actually thoughts are around the self. And self meaning also the real self. Even the role self is not the real self. But very few thoughts are around our real self. And then this realization is important because this one says to change the world is not your mission. To change yourself is not your duty. To awaken to your true nature is your opportunity. It was really nice the way they've put it, because sometimes we want to change the world, but it says that's not your mission. That will happen on its own. To change yourself is not your duty. So it's saying change versus awakening. To awaken to your true nature is your opportunity. Because if we just look at just the change, we could still be working at a superficial level. And I want to change this behavior to that. But it's more than change. Someone said, I didn't change, I just woke up. Right? So just like a butterfly, the imaginal cells, right? They create this whole new being. In the same way, it's like change is not just change, but it's actually an awakening. Right? And really interesting that when we look at change and we also look at acceptance. So, which one is more important? Acceptance or change? Acceptance, right? It's very interesting. To change something means I'm not comfortable with who I am and I want to change. Acceptance, because on the first look, they may seem to be opposites, but actually they are not, right? So this one says, why are things the way they are? The answer is because that's the way they must be. So this is like acceptance, right? Because sometimes, even I can resist, that from within. And that's where I need to first accept where I am. And when I accept myself and everyone And that's what Baba always says. Always say, I am okay. Everything is okay. Everyone is okay. Why? Because it allows me time to and energy to focus on myself. Because otherwise, the energy gets spent in battling with that thought of resistance. So this one says, why change feels hard? Why change feels hard? So it says the core problem is incongruence. Struggle, people often trap themselves in a loop of self criticism, trying to force change through shame or judgment. The split, this creates a painful gap between the ideal self, who you think you should be, and the real self, who you actually are. The block, actively rejecting your current flaws, burns vital emotional energy, keeping you defensive, rigid, and completely stuck. It's quite interesting. It's from psychology that they say that that's why it's important to accept. Because otherwise, if I'm having an energy of self criticism, then I cannot use my inner energy to change myself. It will be in battling with those thoughts. That's what Baba sometimes talks about yoddha, like battling, the battling state, which is the Kshatriya stage, which is I'm battling. Versus when I realize my truth, then I don't need to battle. I accept everything, everyone based on the spiritual wisdom. Right? So whenever there is a split, that's where I will feel a struggle. Right? And there is a very famous psychologist. His name is Carl Rogers. He says the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. So it's not that I resist myself or I don't like myself. Then I'll just spend my energy in battling. But when I accept myself as I am, only then I can change. Right. So that's why it says it's like a paradox. It's like a paradox. It's called in psychology Rogers paradox. It's very interesting. Mhm. And and then it says acceptance versus change. So the two halves of the whole. Acceptance is acknowledging reality without approval, judgment, or attempts to force it to be different. It is giving up the proverbial boxing gloves, means I'm not fighting with anything. When to use for things outside your control, past events, natural traits, or other people's actions. So I need to accept. I cannot, it's not in my control. Change, actively modifying your habits, environment, or perspective to improve your situation. When to use for areas within your control, your boundaries, actions, and coping mechanisms. Mhm. So when I accept everything, everyone, the way they are, only then I can change. But Baba said, okay, स्वभाव and sanskar को change करना. So by using spiritual wisdom, when I accept, then I can easily change. So that was really interesting that sometimes, and if we see that's what God also does, He first accepts us the way we are. And once we feel completely accepted, loved, that we belong, only then can we change. Mhm. Mhm. Right. And why acceptance drives change? So, what happens with acceptance? It says drops resistance, acknowledging this is where I am, stops the exhausting internal war against your own reality. Mhm. creates safety. Self-compassion provides the internal psychological safety needed to look at flaws without breaking down. Frees up energy. When you stop spending energy denying or punishing your imperfections, that energy is redirected towards growth. And then it provides a baseline. You cannot effectively navigate to a new destination until you honestly pinpoint exactly where you are starting from. Right? So that's why it says acceptance in this spiritual journey is very important. I keep on accepting myself and I keep on trusting the process. And with patience, then I change. There is a very interesting term. It's called unconditional positive regard. And this is used a lot in um, behavioral therapies. So it's called unconditional positive regard. What it means is, it means I care about you, you have value, you don't have to do anything to prove it to me, and nothing will change my mind. It's like accepting the other one unconditionally. And then it says, it's seeing somebody as a whole and complete and worthy person starting from a place where care doesn't have to be earned. It's just assumed. Everybody gets care. Means it's not like I have to or someone has to do something to, earn my care, but I naturally uh, radiate it. You're allowed to mess up, you're allowed to have struggles, but that is never going to invalidate your worth. And it's never going to invalidate my care for you. So, no matter, that's what Baba says, no matter how the other person is, who, what they are, you have to have good wishes. That's what it really means to have unconditional positive regard. And this fuels that person to then change. When I maintain this unconditional positive regard, and that includes for myself as well. So, no matter if with whatever struggle I'm going through, but to maintain that. So, there is a little story around this. So, we'll watch it and then move on.
Very beautiful, with a
Very,
lot of meaning.
yeah, beautiful message.
Yeah, even when I came across this one, I felt like how unconditional someone can be, right? And so that the teacher really showed that, right? So, and sometimes, when Baba says, don't see anyone's defects, because sometimes, we can see, but like to really close the eye of seeing anyone's defects completely. And with that unconditional acceptance and empathy, the little boy changed completely. So, and that's what, Baba also does. Like, God never sees any defects, right? Any deficiencies. He always sees the best in us. And just in seeing the best, He makes us who we are. But if we were to focus on our defects, then we would never reach our highest potential. So this unconditional positive regard that makes this really a very right. And this unconditional positive regard comes when we are able to see the what? Yeah, we're able to see the reality. So it says realize, realize, realize. Real eyes. With real eyes, what is a real eye? How many eyes do we have?
3.
3 eyes. Out of those, how many is the real eyes?
1.
Yeah, just one. The third eye is the real eye. These 2 physical eyes are unreal, right? So when the real eye is open, then I can realize the truth and also realize. I can also uh, realize the what is false, what is a lie. So this allows me to see the reality that every soul is pure, every soul is innocent, every soul is God's child, and to have that feeling of love, compassion, mercy towards everyone, regardless of their actions, regardless of their journey, regardless of their story, right? And then this one says, so when we open our real eyes, then we can transcend the form. Transcend the form means we go beyond the intellect, no longer sees the form, but can appreciate, hold the formless. And when I transcend the form, then I transform. Right. I transcend the form and then I transform. And so then it becomes a very natural experience. And that's where the butterfly transcended the form of the caterpillar to transform. Right? In the same way, we transcend the form of the body, the role, to become who we are. So, Cha Om Shanti. Thank you for joining. Let's take a moment to just go within and realize that we are on this spiritual journey. We are constantly evolving, just like the journey of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. At every step, the caterpillar trusts the process. The caterpillar accepts who he is and who he is becoming. And with patience and sincerity, this journey keeps on unfolding. In the same way, I accept myself completely the way I am. I accept others, every situation unconditionally. And this acceptance gives me the energy to change, to transform, to trust the in between, and to always see myself and others with unconditional positive regard. I honor my struggles through this journey, knowing that there is a reason, there is a purpose for each struggle, so that I learn and grow to become who I am. I open my real eyes to realize my truth, and I transcend the form to transform and unlock the inner butterfly. Om Shanti. Thank you for joining. So maybe we can share any thoughts anyone would like to share. Please feel free to maybe online can maybe go first. Shanti.
Hello, brother.
Hello, my sister Deborah. Mhm.
So many things. A very, very good topic and very good examples. The first thing I really liked was that little picture of the cocoon. He thought he was going to die, and then he became a butterfly. And you started talking about the butterfly and what he has to go through. And it reminded me when my dad turned 70. What do you get a 70-year-old who has everything? And I found a butterfly kit. And he loved it. He loved watching the little caterpillar climbing up and making its catalyst, and then watching it open up and break out and fly off free. It was so fun. Then when you gave the struggle, and you were saying things, we need them. There's a reason that the cocoon, you have to go through that cocoon. You can't just cut it open. I don't know. I don't think I've never met you, I don't think, and I don't even know how I got on the Zoom, but I love your programs. And
Thank
October 11th of '04, I was stabbed 10 times and I was absolutely paralyzed except my right hand. And I just laid there and I felt like I was in a cocoon. I could not move my legs. They didn't feel like they were long like they normally are. They were just laying there and people had to turn me over and they had to do this and that and feed me and everything. But I've learned so much from that situation. And I came up with a quote that is so true. From our greatest challenges or struggles, as you were saying, come our greatest blessings. And I've given thanks for what happened to me, and just anyway, lots of learning, lots of tons of growing through the whole process. Om Shanti Bai, thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Deborah. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Shanti. Mhm. Great. Any other thoughts? Sure. We have a few angels here. Shane. Mhm.
I really like the example of the butterfly, and the man who was, seeing her like she's struggling, so he just tried to, just get it get it out, but then he realized it was his mistake because it needs time. So whatever the struggle comes in the life, so it helps us to grow. And I really like the video you shared, like the professor and the student. If the professor would have told him that he's a theft, so everybody who was around, maybe he might felt bad and he might make more mistakes after that. But like Baba always taught us that never see anyone defects. And I think today I was, you know, doing this, like I was, seeing the defects of others. And thankfully, thank you that because of this video, I realized that, and you also shared that we always we always have thoughts about others, not of ours. So we need to change ourselves, not others, and accept everybody as they are. And the and when the real eyes open, only then I can realize that example you shared. So this is very useful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a very good session. A lot of takeaways. What I'll focus on for myself for now is to accept everything, to trust the process, especially I really liked where it said honoring the in between. So, which is the messy middle, they call it usually. And then that with patience, I will change. So, and then I really like the story, like Megaben shared about the professor and the student to have unconditional positive regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Any other final thoughts anyone would like to add? Sure. So thank you for your time and have a good rest of the evening. Om Shanti.